Hello everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Misdemeanor Crimes 2024 Saints Season Diary. I had intended to have my obligatory glass of wine, but I'm thinking the way that I'm feeling about it this year, I should have had me liquor. Straight. No chaser. And that's what this take is going to be. Well, we got delighted in the draft, addressing some needs that we had been needing to address for a couple of years, especially on the offensive line. We went and drafted a fellow named Kool-Aid, if you can believe that, who has been turning some heads in camp. I hear that Chase Young is also turning heads in camp, and a certain young wide receiver who's been baking Alontae Taylor like a cake. All the things that I'm hearing coming out of OTAs and training camp have been positive, great. We've had those before. And like a fellow or a lady by the name of It's Me said on the State of the Saints podcast the other day, yeah, we hear about them all in training camp. As soon as the regular season starts, they disappear. Training camp. I was absolutely, positively pissed off when I found out that yes, the Saints could have had fans to watch them there in California at training camp. But you know what the stick in the ointment was? Oh, it wasn't nothing about a deal that the Rams, the Chargers, or even the Las Vegas Raiders had about competition clauses and who could be allowed and who could be not. Oh no, it was nothing like that. It was something as simple as the Saints brass being too damn cheap to pay for security and vendors to allow their fans to training camp. And why I'm so mad about it is because I had my lips set to go to training camp, to sneak off from all of my family, and they not know anything until they see me posting pictures on Facebook of me at training camp. Unfortunately, this year, that was not to be. Thank you, Mickey Loomis, Dennis Lauscher, and Saints Brass for thinking so wonderfully and being so concerned about your fans. I'm also discouraged because I'm not hearing very much out of the offense. Hearing a lot of stuff about defense. Not hearing a lot of stuff about offense. I have my questions as to whether Trevor Penning is going to be an effective player on whatever side you put him on. I think Talise Fuaga could be good because, especially in the zone running scheme, that's probably going to be instituted as part of Clint Kubiak's offense. He could be good because he did something like that similar when he was in college. I hear and have seen videos of Dennis Allen up there talking with his chest puffed out, hearing about how positive Derelict Carr is about the season and about the new offense and about how they're shining in training camp. But like I've said before, especially since the 22 season, the Saints looking good in training camp doesn't mean anything when the season comes along. Remember how positive we were in 22. when we had all our Louisiana LSU folks coming back to the team that Sean Payton would hardly ever allow, but Dennis Allen would, he got a lot of favor from us for that. And then he went ahead and posted a 7-10 season with Andy Dalton. Okay. So the next year, we have a defensive turnover on the defensive staff, and we get a new quarterback. I see all kinds of things on social media talking, Derek Carr wasn't that bad. He was what? He was ranked this here or that there in the NFL, in yardage, touchdowns, passing, whatever he was ranked at, according to the numbers. But what makes me angry with people is they don't look deeper into those numbers and evaluate his performance quarter by quarter. If you did that, you'd see that most of his yardage was gained when the games were safely in hand by the other team, and it was already a foregone quantity that the Saints were going to lose. This season, we've had just about a total turnover of the offensive staff, and there's a whole lot of positivity surrounding Clint Kubiak being the offensive coordinator of this team. He gets his chance. That's fabulous. That's great. Hope he does well. But I want you to notice how the defensive performance did dip when the new defensive staff was brought on this past season. We couldn't stop the run if it was a runny nose and we had toilet tissue. Chase Young being here as defensive end is encouraging, and his progress from his injury and his surgery is absolutely encouraging, because we definitely need somebody on the other end. Cam is getting old. Cam is getting old. And he's not going to be a Saint very much longer. Demario Davis is also getting old. Even though he might have had, in some games or maybe for the year, the most tackles on the team, notice how many of those tackles were made on runners that had already gotten to the second level and on their way to the third. I'm still concerned about the energy surrounding this team. Those of you who listen to me often or who frequent podcasts that I also frequent know that this has been a concern of mine. And I first brought it up last season during the Jacksonville game when the Saints came out of the tunnel looking like a man who was slogging off to work to a job that he hates. And they played like that until the last minute, of course. It's not lost on me that our 2017 offensive and defensive rookies of the year aren't happy. I wondered why Marshawn Lattimore was being shopped, as it didn't seem like something that was logical, considering that he has been a defensive stalwart in that backfield since he got here. Alvin Kamara, our offensive rookie of the year in 2017, isn't happy either. I understand where he's at, being a running back, and how his position has been devalued over the years. Of course he's wanting to get all he can, and I can't blame him for that. I'd hate to see him go, but the Saints won't meet your price. What else you gonna do? And then too, there's the mess that the Saints find themselves in. Why From this point on, no decent free agents are going to come to this team. There are two reasons. One of them being Dennis Allen and the atmosphere and the energy that he surrounds his team in. The second of them being money. Do you know that the Saints just finished paying off Drew Brees' contract in 2023? How many other contracts have been pushed down the road, down the road, down the road, and how many players are the Saints paying right now that aren't even on the team? That may even be out of football entirely. Because they're going to push this down the road, down the road, down the road, and they've kept doing it to the degree that if I were a free agent, I wouldn't consider coming here on the cheap either. The offensive staff turning over, even with Clint Kubiak's inclusion as offensive coordinator, shakes me a bit. The Saints offense did only marginally better in the 23 season with Derek Carr than they did in the 22 season. You may say the numbers say different, but like I keep telling you, look deeper into the numbers. The defensive staff turned over in the 23 season and the defense regressed. I expect the exact same thing to happen this season with the offense and Clint Kubiak. And there's also another thing that concerns me. Sean Payton widely was considered during his tenure with the Saints an offensive genius. And he is the one who pushed the Saints to those heights on offense. Never out of the top 5 hardly, except for maybe those 3 years. 4 years that he posted a 7-9 season, and 1 year that he posted an 8-8 season, losing 5 games by, 5 points or less? You'll notice that I have my glass of wine. That's because I had to take a little break because my camera wouldn't record more than 13 minutes continuously. So I went and got myself a glass of wine. To continue, in San Francisco, with their offensive firepower and Clint Kubiak being a part of the offensive staff in San Francisco. Okay, we got that. Of course, we expect San Francisco to be back in the NFC Championship game this year because they are that good. Clint Kubiak being a part of that. Kyle Shanahan is also an offensive coach. Now, I know a lot of y'all are going to be calling me a negative Nelly for this, but I'm going to say it anyway, and I want you to think about it. With Sean Payton being considered the offensive genius that widely he was considered as, he had Pete Carmichael as his second, supposedly sitting by him, learning everything he could from him so that when the time came for him, he could run the offense as efficiently as Sean could. By the same token, you would think, or we would expect, that Clint Kubiak, working with quarterbacks like he did, and him bringing Mr. Irrelevant himself, Brock Purdy, to prominence as a quarterback in the National Football League is looked positively upon because it's considered that maybe he can do with derelict Carr similarly to what John Gruden did when he was with him in Oakland when he had his best year. Now, what if we are getting with Clint Kubiak the same person that we had in Pete Carmichael? We're gonna see. Yes, I know it's a lot of hope and a lot of positive feelings, and some people have even said that the Saints are going to go 12-5 this year and go all the way to the Super Bowl. Pie in the sky, y'all. Pie in the sky. Remember how the defense regressed. The offense is probably going to regress too. And I don't mean regress in the way that we're going to lose more games, but regress in the way that the offensive production under Clint Kubiak, his first year, with all the players learning a new offensive system, there are going to be glitches. And this is a perfect segue to my season predictions. Last year, and I did this about a month before I'm doing it now last year, I had a particular rubric that I figured what games the Saints were going to win and what games the Saints were going to lose. By that rubric, I had the Saints going 9-8 and possibly out of the playoffs, which is exactly what happened. The rubric I used was evaluating each of the coaching staffs against the coaching staff of New Orleans and figuring which team would win the game by that. Last year there was only one coaching staff that we played that was ranked lower than us, and that was Jacksonville, and we lost that game. So, I couldn't use the coaching rubric this time. So I had to figure out another one on my own. So I crunched numbers, I looked at numbers, I crunched numbers some more. And what I came up with was something that I call differential, which I figured by figuring the total offensive and defensive production of each team that we were going to play and our own team, and assigning to them a commensurate number. A high positive number meant that you were at the bottom of the league. A high negative number meant that you were at the top of the league. The Saints came in at a -10, which is about middling. This year, in addition to the 3 teams in our division that we have to play, we're going to be playing Cleveland, Green Bay, LA Rams, the NFC East, and the AFC West. I had it in my head, figured that the Saints would sweep Carolina and split with Tampa and Atlanta. The entry of Kirk Cousins into the quarterback position at Atlanta gives me cause for pause, and here's why. If there has been any one player who has had the Saints number, it's Kirk Cousins. And it does not matter where he was playing, he ripped us apart. He's played us 5 times with 2, maybe 3 different teams. His record against us in those 5 tries is 4-1. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Atlanta sweeps us. If that's so, then we're going to have to get a game from one of those teams in the NFC West, the AFC West, the NFC East, or Cleveland, LA, or Green Bay. The teams that we're going to be playing in the NFC East. Dallas. Oh my God. Second game of the season. Y'all may hear about me being in jail for shooting or beating up somebody behind them picking at me behind the Saints losing to the Cowboys, or me being in the hospital behind being beat up for being in a fight with my old ass behind the Cowboys in the Saints game. So there's that. I expect the Saints to lose that game. Washington, yeah, they got a rookie quarterback. One that probably runs. And we know how running quarterbacks affect the Saints. Or how, rather, the Saints are discombobulated by running quarterbacks. Was that Dallas? Washington? Oh, the New York Giants? We ain't gonna talk about them. They're so pitiful. The Philadelphia Eagles would be the most likely team for us to beat out of the NFC East. Because, by my rubric, the Philadelphia Eagles have a net negative number rating, but that negative is 1.6, while the Saints is 10.6. So, by that rubric, the Saints should beat Philadelphia. Should. The AFC West. Kansas City has the second highest net negative of all the teams we're going to play. Dallas has the first. Do you think we're going to beat Kansas City? Denver. We play Denver at home. It will be Sean Payton's first game or first visit back to the Dome since he left and became the head coach of a team other than the Saints. How do I would first say that the Saints would beat Denver, but you gonna put Dennis Allen, maybe Clint Kubiak. It'd probably be Clint Kubiak up against Sean Payton. That might be a good match. But I would tend to think that the Saints might have just a little bit more than Denver and will beat them. The Chargers been looking bad last couple of years. Been good in spots. But the Chargers have one thing that I wish the Saints have. And his name is Jim Harbaugh. So don't be surprised if the Chargers beat us too. Vegas, toss up as far as I'm concerned. But don't be surprised if they beat us. Cleveland's defense is probably going to eat us up. And they also have a young man there by the name of Jameis Winston who knows all the ins and outs of the offense. Maybe not this new offense, but he does know the tendency of the players that's going to be playing in that offense, right? And how best to beat them. Next, the Rams. All of us in Saints Nation have our reasons, different reasons, for hating the Rams. Even though they will not have Aaron Donald on their roster this year due to retirement, I still think they got enough to beat the Saints. So, when the schedule first came out, I kind of gave it a cursory glance. Said, oh my goodness, 8 and 9 is as good as we're going to do. And I have twisted myself into all kinds of pretzels to see it better than 8 and 9. And I cannot. Perhaps all of us, or just me maybe, need to pump the brakes on this and just look and wait and see. Oh, about 4 games into the season, we should know what we have. Let's just hope they're not like the first 4 games of last season. 8 and 8. Excuse me. 8 and 9 if we sweep Carolina. 1 and 1 with the other 2 teams. Lose to Dallas. Beat everybody else. Maybe Philly. Maybe Philly. In the NFC East. Lose to Green Bay. Again this year. Because I'm of a mind that it's going to be Green Bay and San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. Lose to Cleveland. Lose to the Rams. Lose to Kansas City. Beat Denver. Beat Vegas. Who else is in the AFC West? Kansas City, Denver, Las Vegas. Chargers. The Chargers would be the 8th win. But like I told you before, even that one's in question to me. So I can't see any better than 8 and 9. And if things go as bad as they could, 7 and 10 again. But there's an upside to 7 and 10. Let's hope the upside to 7 and 10 would be at last and finally getting Dennis Allen out of our hair, off our team, and out of our city. No matter that he is or has been a wonderful defensive coordinator, I no longer care. Excuse me, I got a scratch. But even if Dennis Allen does go, the last thing they need to do is promote Clint Kubiak into the head coaching position. But you know how the good old boy network runs. We have a certain pool of individuals that we pull from. And these are the individuals who are going to get the chance. And some of those individuals get chance after chance after chance. after chance before it's finally figured out that, boy, you ain't no good. Now, that 8 and 9 mark that I can't seem to get off of, I will tell you, and I know you've probably heard me type or say, that perhaps this season Clint Kubiak would pull a Jason Garrett on Dennis Allen. If you will remember, when Wade Phillips was the coach of the Cowboys, Jason Garrett was his offensive coordinator, who had played quarterback with the Cowboys at one time and wasn't worth a damn, if you really want to know the truth, but ended up in the job because he had Jerry Jones' ear. And I do believe he proceeded to tank the Cowboys to a 1-7 mark after 8 games. And of course, Wade was fired, Jason Garrett took over, and maybe 2 or 3 years he got fired. But then, I also have to think about, what if this works and Dennis Allen remains the coach of the Saints because Clint Kubiak saved his ass? That's all I got to say now, folks. Again, thank you for being here. The first of many thoughts to come on the Saints. Peace, love, and who dat?